Hello, one and all, and welcome back, yes back, to the Great Unknown Audio Show with me, your illustrious host, and most appropriate face for radio, Maxim Jennings. And you can hear me now observing the after effects of what has been an absolutely glorious sunset at what I believe is called Vishnu Matsui Lighthouse in Exmouth. My final stop, and most northern stop, should I say, to this West Coast Australian road trip extravaganza. I find myself here for 3 nights, the most I've spent in one place, apart from staying at Izzy's, of course. We've had a pretty hefty day of driving, a pit stop there that I almost missed and could have put myself in great peril petrol-wise. And we also have seen some blowholes, some amazing blowholes, which was our kind of morning stop before we really got going. And I have to say, the Quobber blowholes, absolutely fantastic name. Once again, congrats to you, Australia. I don't know who comes up with this stuff. I'm assuming it's another Aboriginal name, but they were absolutely glorious. And as I'm speaking, I'm going to play some of the audio that I captured from the blowholes in the background, because they were, not only were they just a really unique piece of nature, sea life rock formation, whatever you want to call it, they were monumental. They were just crazy. I mean, so basically how it worked was that you're right up against quite a short, in terms of height, cliff front that looks like it had some underwater caves, and so above the surface you could see a few bubbles coming out of these kind of holes in the rock. Which I assume has happened over thousands of years, millions of years of coastal erosion. And the waves from the Indian Ocean were really crashing against these rocks. You get these little pools forming that were almost bubbling above the rocks, and then every now and then there was like water vapour coming up out of a really narrow, tight hole that was almost next to one of these rocks. The water vapour would then spritz up, and following that, water from the rock pool, from what I would assume would have been the roof of the cave, explodes into the air and causes almost this little archway of water to sprout out. And depending on how much the speed, the velocity of the water coming in from the ocean was going at, depended on how big kind of this sprouting out of from the sea cave was. And it was, on a few occasions I did get a little bit wet trying to take some cool videos, but also just seeing the roof of these sea caves, the little blowhole itself, and they had like a almost amethyst type colour, if you know the gem, that kind of purpley pink mineralistic colour. I don't know if that's a word, but if it's not, I've just made it up. And it kind of glistened amongst the otherwise brown rock, so it was really easy to see where these blowholes were, and you could really see when they were gaining traction for a big sprouting out, an explosion of water, something that I hadn't seen before. So it was absolutely fantastic. Key phrase used again. I don't think I've used it in a few days, so, and it really did deserve that description, because really, folks, it was incredibly impressive. Something that I didn't really have high hopes for, didn't really know what it was going to be about, but fantastic, concise explanation from the wildlife park that looks after the blowholes, and that part of Western Australia. Made it really easy to understand why they were there. And Aboriginals believe that they were formed as a duel happened between the sea demons and the rock demons. rock spirits, sea spirits, and the rock spirits, and they were fighting each other. And every time they clash together and try and battle with each other, as a result, the sea seems to be winning the battle, and the water blasts out as a result of this, almost as like a wound to the rock. So I thought, it's really interesting, the culture, as I mentioned in the last episode, but these kind of stories that have been the same for so long, which was one thing they made sure to highlight, is that these stories about nature and its place on our earth have been around for thousands and thousands of years, and they don't change. There's no Chinese whispers to them. It's a common belief that is stuck throughout the whole of Aboriginal history. So a really fantastic start to the day. Not really much to say other than that on what I've been doing. The drive to Exmouth was absolutely fine. The only petrol station before Exmouth is 220 kilometres away, so you have to make a stop there otherwise, unless you have a massive 80 litre engine that can take the hit of that mileage. You do need to make the stop, and I treated myself to a large portion of chips. Calorie wise, probably not the best decision, but they did have some really nice garlic seasoning on them, so that did make up for it, I guess. Not that I was ever going to turn them down. Long drive, I don't know what it is about driving, it just makes you hungry, and that's probably why I presume certain people who hold those occupations, bus drivers, lorry drivers, there's not really much else to do other than listen to the radio, your music, podcast, think aloud to yourself, which can spiral out of control very easily if you end up doing that in public, or eating. Obviously not when you're driving, but constantly stopping, stretching your legs, and nothing that helps a leg stretch other than a bite to eat. And there aren't really many cheap, healthy options, should I say, on these service stations, petrol stations all over. That's a global thing, right? We all know that. Although when we did stop in South America a few times, they would really make a thing of the service station stop, and there would be like buffets, restaurants, local food. It was fantastic. I used to really look forward to it, and would hardly ever plan to have food on the bus apart from a bit of fruit, just because I knew I was probably going to get a full-blown meal for an inexpensive price and thoroughly enjoy it and not be a piece of cack. So bring that to Australia. I mean, that's not going to happen anytime soon. It's ingrained in the Latino culture to have good food wherever you go. So yeah, it's not all doom and gloom in some service stations across the world. But I drove through Exmouth, arrived at my place called Yard Deep Retreat. Not really much of a retreat, absolutely heaving campsite that's in Cape Range National Park, which looks lovely. It's definitely got a lot more greenery to it than the one near Kalbarri. So I'm looking forward to doing a few trails here. I've been looking at some of them. They look quite good. I've also been told there's some great snorkeling spots in Exmouth where you don't have to pay. You can just go into the ocean and see a bunch of marine life. So maybe renting a snorkel, surely that can't be ridiculously expensive, or even buying one, because I might need it in the future. It's just a really awkward thing to pack, a snorkel. It's got that long thin tube, and then you can't really crunch it up, can you? So anyway, constantly digressing. It's been an easy drive, and I'm finding myself now getting into the groove of every time I see another vehicle that I pass on the highway to give them the gesture of how are you doing through the windscreen. Sometimes they reply, sometimes they don't, and sometimes I forget, and I'm like, oh no, I might have ruined that person's day by not gesturing with my hands. Something polite, obviously, not anything impolite. But yeah, getting the hang of that on these long, but not very tiresome trips so far. So yeah, Exmouth really is meant to be the highlight of this trip north. So I'm excited for the next few days. Some good trails, obviously amazing sunsets. Someone said that to me when I was in Dunsborough. And you can see why, because it sticks around for a long time. The after sun is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm, like I said, excited to explore this town. Furthest northern point I will be going. I did consider at one point going to Broome, But I think that is another 8-hour drive away from Exmouth, maybe even more. And so it just wouldn't be feasible and not enjoyable, really. And so I have decided to give myself an 8-hour drive in reverse back down to Geraldton after I finish here. So really putting myself through it rather than stopping halfway. I thought just get it all done in one chunk. Your solo driving isn't that bad. Obviously you have to have a few refills along the way, but it should not be too bad. But yeah, I will obviously keep you updated on my adventures around Exmouth. My tent is pitched up. We're on grass again. Makes a big difference. The only problem is that the camp kitchen is more of a barbecue, and I haven't supplied myself with the appropriate cleaning equipment to clean a barbecue, so we're going to have to steer clear of that. I did see a few mega hobs, you know, when those big camp style kettles are on there, and I don't know whether my little frying pan's going to be up to that kind of test. We're going to give it a go, but it also looked a bit tricky to kind of test out and work. So my dyspraxic skills and fears of embarrassment were playing on my mind a bit as I was observing the kitchen for the first time. But we will try and give it a go. I haven't brought a sponge or a tea towel. I could take some soap from one of the bathrooms and maybe clean it with that and then just let it out to dry. Maybe we'll find a way. I mean, we do have some cold food, but I've got microwave rice, and you can just put microwave rice, and I've got noodles, and I would like to eat them as quite a nice dinner. You can just put them on a frying pan for 30 seconds with that blast furnace for heat, and it should be warm, which would be nicer than eating dry, uncooked, cooked but chewy rice. So yeah, that's the kind of conundrums we're dealing with tonight. We're going to call it for this episode here. Another day of not too much going on, but some fantastic blowholes. And that really is the main takeaway of this episode. Always think about your blowholes. In whatever shape or fashion they do come, in whatever circumstance they may arise, never miss out on an opportunity to see a blowhole. That's all from me, folks. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.